Hello and welcome to the Power Your Advice podcast. The Power Your Advice podcast is designed to bring financial advisors new ideas, why those ideas should be considered, and how to implement them into your business. This podcast is brought to you by Advisorpedia, the best place for advisors to grow their minds and businesses. And now, please join your host, Doug Heikkinen.
Welcome to the podcast. We are live at the FSI OneVoice conference, and we're here with Brian Bleasdell, Chief Product Officer from Flyer Financial Technologies. Welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Doug, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, and we're looking forward to doing this podcast with you.
So we're in Texas, and you grew up in Texas, but you don't sound like it.
I don't sound like it. I moved here when I was 5, and just never adopted the Texas drawl or accent. My older brother very much did, and it's kind of odd seeing the two of us in the same room. You wouldn't really think, other than the looks, you wouldn't know we were brothers.
Well, you're from Denver, I'm from Boise. It's nice getting a little break from the weather, but not that much here.
It is always nice to come back to Texas, especially in the wintertime. Denver's weather is pretty nice in the wintertime, but it's nice to come back and have that a much warmer feel in January. You just don't get that in Denver.
So let's get into Flyer. Who is Flyer, and what do you guys actually do these days?
So most people think of Flyer, if they know anything about us, think about us as a trading network, the actual plumbing or the pipes or the highway system between trading partners. And that was true up until about 10 years ago. That's where the company started. But quickly after building one of the more robust trading networks out there at an early stage, one of the biggest requests, and frankly, I was one of the first customers asking Flyer to do this, which was, I need an order management system to handle the orders because I don't like or I don't feel the solution I have today is sufficient. So Flyer then set off to build a pretty robust order management system on top of the network. So think of it as a layer on top of an execution network, which is really just connectivity between a lot of brokers and custodians. So order management system was built, and honestly, there's some of the biggest names in the business use our order management and execution network. So firms like Orion and InvestNet, and there's a long list of them, but the big players use us because of our scale and capability. We have, though, in the last couple of years, built and rolled out a trade creation or trade generation application, which is most people refer to as portfolio management. But for us, portfolio management is really about having all of the positions in all of your book of business represented, and at scale, in a very flexible way, allow you to introduce or implement trading decisions or ideas and automate that process all the way through to execution and allocation of those accounts. So somewhat of a unique platform where most applications today, or most software companies today, do one or two of those three pieces. Very few do all three like we do.
You rebranded from FIX Flyer to Flyer Financial Technologies. Why the shift?
The shift was really because the impression by having FIX in the name, so FIX stands for Financial Information Exchange, it's a protocol. It's kind of like FTP or HTTP. They're protocols for communication, but they really don't define the business as we have it today. We've grown much past implementing that protocol and maintaining the connectivity network that really runs on that protocol to being several layers of applications above that. So it really didn't speak to who Flyer was anymore. It spoke to who we were 10 years ago, honestly.
Let's get a little technical. Can you help me understand the end-to-end process your platform addresses?
Yeah, so the end-to-end process today is really designed around advisors or centralized trading desks that think of themselves as true portfolio managers, stock pickers, and now also stock implementers. So the end-to-end process begins by a centralized desk or even a portfolio manager determining what they want to do on that given day from a trading perspective. So it is for the very inception of, I know I need to go trade some accounts, spend some cash, swaps one security for another, do some kind of trading activity, to the point where they're selecting the accounts that this applies to, creating the trades or the actual orders themselves, reviewing what those orders look like. Do they meet the objectives? I'm trying to do this across these accounts. Am I actually meeting my objectives? So we've got tools that help do that piece, and then actually managing those orders and executions in the market. So for larger firms that have 10, 15 billion in assets, some of the securities they're going to trade are going to push the markets, and they need to manage those very actively, and our software does that as well.
Managing portfolios at scale can be a challenge. What are the critical enabling features that facilitate scaling up while also implementing unique workflows?
So one of the things that I kind of brought to the table at Flyer when I joined about a year and a half ago was this idea that not all workflows are the same. There's too many software solutions in the market today that really is what they would call best in class. It's a one-size-fits-all solution is really what it boils down to. So what we decided to focus on is how do we create the tools that allows portfolio managers to create the workflows, the trading workflows unique to them that they want to do. So we do that by really doing a lot of data analytics up front about exactly the condition of all of the portfolios that they have that they're managing. We store off all of the characteristics about those portfolios and let them design structures or parameters that identify then sets of accounts that they know they need to take activity or take action on, some kind of trade activity. So in other words, they can define what a trading scenario might look like within our software, and then our system will prompt them real time or on a daily basis, however frequently they want to go and trade, to focus just on those accounts that meet those parameters or criteria. So it's almost a self-defined trade identification solution, which is really unique in this industry today. Most people just think about, I go and I run some reports, or I look at something and I try to figure it out. Our system allows you to define with the criteria ahead of time, set it up as a saved profile that you can then go back to anytime you want, and it will identify those accounts that meet those criteria.
Putting these things together, can you give me a couple of use cases for what this looks like in practice in real life?
Of course, Doug. I think some of the most frequent things people see, and really what we're trying to automate to get people out of the business of, is doing the daily, kind of the road activities of, I've got high or low cash in accounts I need to raise or spend cash. I've got a new account and I need to invest it. I've got other accounts that need to be liquidated. I need to change a mandate on a set of accounts for, the opinion of the client has come back and given me a different insight into where they want to go with their investments. So those kinds of things tend to be what takes the most time for portfolio managers to actually manage. But that doesn't get into the intent of, if they're true stock selectors, if they're true portfolio managers and analysts, and they're researching and understanding the market, those activities represent the daily things that just have to get the work done. They don't actually mean I'm implementing investment decisions in my client portfolios. So we're trying to automate all of those things while at the same time enabling the software or the user of the software to quickly figure out and implement their security ideas or their investment ideas in a much more scalable fashion, so that one, their time is better spent, and then two, they can do this on a much larger size of accounts.
How does this workflow and trading capability compare with the much larger scale centralized portfolio management solutions out there from the industry veteran platforms?
So Doug, that's really where I think I'm bringing my expertise, where I came from, which was much larger scale platforms. I was the head of portfolio management on the product side for Envestnet. And so we managed software that really literally managed hundreds of billions of dollars on a daily basis. And taking the level of automation and scale and the portfolio management approach of automating all of the daily tasks that people do and batching those together into groups that then could be traded in groups and not have to be done on an individual account basis, which is really where, when I sit next to an advisor and I watch how they do their day-to-day trading activities, they tend to get bogged down into literally managing individual accounts or managing small subsets or groups of accounts. And it really it's not a scalable solution for them long term. They can't grow their business to $300 or $400 million when they're having to manage. If they had 500 accounts, they're having to manage, how many can you manage on any given day? So having the technology that allows you to set a bunch of parameters that can then define where you need to focus some of your administrative tasks, I call them administrative tasks, that you could even almost assign or hire a relatively junior portfolio manager advisor to take care of, because they're so straightforward to handle, and then you get to spend your time looking at your book of business, looking at what investments your clients have, seeing who doesn't hold certain things or see who does hold too much of certain things, and in bulk be able to manage those accounts and generate trades and then execute those trades in the market wherever you want to execute them. Best execution is a big focus of our customers, and we have connectivity pretty much everywhere. So it's again another strength of ours. But being able to transform where your insights are, and how do you implement those decisions in portfolios on a rapid basis across a large book of business is really the conceptual framework around how we think about our users and our use cases today.
You came from a big company like Envestnet to a much smaller company, startup mindset. What was the intention behind that?
The shift, I think, from a trading behavior in the RIA space. The RIA space has really transformed and changed in the last 10 years, as you probably well know, where it has been smaller, more focused shops that didn't focus a lot or spend a lot of time thinking about outsourced trading to third-party asset managers, or doing some of the more inventive things we see now, like direct indexing. How does an RIA build in a direct indexing component to their software solution? We're working on that right now, or we're getting pretty close. So being able to extend much larger platform, much larger business trading behaviors and software solutions, and transitioning that into the RIA space where really no one had focused on this at all, is a huge opportunity in my mind to really transform how these advisors spend their time thinking about implementing their investment solutions. We're not managing hundreds of billions of dollars or not helping facilitate that process. If we had 10,000 RIA customers who are all managing their 200, 500, 1,000, or some cases 10,000 accounts much more effectively, honestly, that's where we're touching a much broader reach of the market.
So what's next for Flyer? What's driving the roadmap?
So our focus to date has been really in how do we help create a flexible system that allows it to customize to your workflows for trading, and how do we scale that? The next phase is really adding in more capabilities. So as we all know, digital assets are becoming a big theme or concept within the traditional wealth management space, but how do you actually add digital assets to client portfolios? So we're going to take our trading network smarts and transition that into connectivity with some of the major cryptocurrency exchanges. So you'll be able to add alongside your existing portfolios your digital assets in whatever proportion you choose, and have multiple exchanges where you can actually hold those and trade those. So again, taking our roots, our bread and butter, what we've been doing for a long time, and transforming that in the cryptocurrency industry or the digital assets industry is one big focus. The other is on portfolio personalization. That's going to become a big thing. That already is, but no one's actually doing it on the ground. No one's showing me how does it actually work. Show me in an account today, how do I benchmark it to an index? Say that benchmark index is the Russell 2000. I don't want to hold 2,000 names. I want to hold 300 names, but I want to hold a representative list of those. But I want to customize it around my ESG preferences, or even SRI preferences on tax or on impact investing. We're building the capability for advisors to be able to create that as a component of an account, or the whole account, but you can even put it as what we call a sleeve within an account as a direct indexing solution. A lot of people used to call this in the asset management space core satellite approach, where my core is a direct index that I can loss harvest against, and I shoot the moon with my satellites, or I'll make my bets there.
Sounds, for the educated investor, something that they're going to be very interested in talking to their advisors about.
This absolutely gives advisors something else to talk to that's both relevant and personal to the investor, such that they can really go back to them when they haven't had anything new for some time, or here's yet one more cool money manager that's kind of doing really well these last couple of years. Now it's a way to approach them with a much more relevant conversation about topics they probably know something about, they care about, and some of the things that they've seen in the market.
And adding value, which they're always looking to do.
Absolutely.
Brian, thanks so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Doug, it's been great. Great to meet you.
Please follow us for all the latest updates on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all at Advisorpedia. For everyone at Advisorpedia, our producer Jakey Beard, and the Power Your Advice podcast team, this is Doug Heikkinen.